Well, hello again from Glenwood Church, and this is our second presentation we've done, and thank you so much for all your encouraging comments that you fed back to us, and we're taking some of the suggestions on board, and over the next weeks we'll be putting some of those in. Clearly, since last time we were with you, things have changed even more, and I hope all of you have managed to cope with the restrictions that now we're all under. But so, Rachel, nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right,
yes?
thank you. Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
now,
day at a time at the moment, isn't
day
it?
Day at a time.
Yeah.
So, one of the comments we had, Rachel, was that they really missed your jokes.
Yes, much to your disappointment.
It was very disappointing,
yes.
but not as much as Andy West. Andy West really was very happy.
I know.
I know.
But
what do you say about that?
I think we listen to the crowd. And
we do listen to the crowd, yeah. So Andy, I'm sorry, you overruled. So your joke, Rachel, please.
Yes, well, it's funny you say that actually, Paul, because normally I get my jokes from people coming to me and saying I've got a joke, and there haven't been many of those at all.
That's very disappointing.
I know, so I don't actually have a joke, which Andy, you'll be happy about for today. But I wondered if there's something we could do about that.
Good.
Yes. So we wondered if you had a good, clean joke, if you could record yourself and send it to us, and next week we will show some of your jokes. So if you could send it to sunday@glenwoodchurch.org, and we will show some next week.
We will.
Yeah.
But somebody has done that, haven't they, with us?
They have.
Yes.
They have.
Who was that?
Alan did send, I think you sent it to Dave, quite a funny joke, actually.
I have to say, I think it's very funny. So we're going to watch that now.
I think we are, yes.
Watch quickly, because it is very quick.
Yeah.
Because of coronavirus, you are going to be quarantined, but you have a choice. Do you A, quarantine with your wife and child, or B?
B.
Well, Rachel, that's a great joke, and to be fair, better than your normal jokes.
Oh, that's a little bit harsh, but it is very good.
It is very good.
I'm sure a lot of people identifying with that at the moment.
But they did, and Jane, when I first showed it to Jane, she immediately went, B, to me.
I bet she did.
She enjoyed
There's a lot of people praying for Jane at the moment,
There's a lot of people praying for Jane at the moment, yes, she is. But anyway, what the people watching this morning won't realise is, due to the wonders of technology, this now is 2 days later from the previous recording.
It is,
It is, because there was a technical hitch. So we've all come back into the building and done this little bit again. But there's a little bit of competition now. Either Rachel or I are wearing one slightly different bit of clothing from the rest of the shoot. So the first person to email into faith@glenwoodchurch.org with the right answer will get a little prize, and it'll be a nice prize.
Awaken us to you, living presence. We bring all we are, mind, body, and emotions. Becoming aware of our breathing, we ask you to fill us with shalom. In the storm, the fire, the virus, and the floods, may we hear your still, small voice. In our haste, our anxiety, our isolation, and our doubts,
may we hear your still, small voice.
In your pause, your peace, your communion, and your faithfulness,
may we hear your still, small voice.
Your voice, a whisper in the silence, but all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. In the wrestle, we lift to you our struggles. In solidarity, we lift to you those on our hearts. During this time, we trust that God will not let go. But
all shall be well, and all shall be well,
and
all manner of thing shall be well.
In the wilderness of Lent, in the wastelands of a pandemic,
Streams of life spring up.
We pray for shalom over Llanedin, Pentwyn and Cardiff, for well-being and for wholeness across our world.
Streams of life spring up. Amen.
Well, thank you, Rachel and Minty, for doing that. That liturgy is such a great space to stop and to reflect. As some of you will know, it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and Rachel kindly bought me a little present, and it was a book called The Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything. Great book. Lousy cover.
It is a lousy cover.
That's a lousy
I do
cover.
admit that.
But it's great content. It's an easy read, and there's so much practical help and advice about spirituality. So, Rachel, you've studied Ignatius for 5, 6, 7 years. Tell us one principle you've learned from him.
Yeah. Well, I really do love Ignatian spirituality. It's very rich, and there's lots of things that I could talk about. But a couple of the things, if that's okay, I'm going to do a couple. One of the things is that I love that the very starting point that Ignatius talks about is that God is looking on each one of us in love. It's called the loving gaze of God, and he looks on us with that loving adoration, just like a parent might look at a child. And that is always the place that Ignatius encourages us to come to in prayer, that God is looking on us in love, and to kind of imagine and realize that on a deep level. And then one of the other things is imaginative prayer. God has given us all imaginations and creativity, and Ignatius encourages us to come to prayer using our imagination, and I've found that a really great way of praying, actually. So, for example, if we're reading about a story about Jesus or a passage about Jesus, to almost imagine yourself in that situation. Maybe someone in the crowd, or if you're there yourself, and just to sort of ask yourself the question, what can you see in this situation? What can you smell? What can you hear? And then to sort of imagine be aware of the feelings that might come and might arise from that, or what God might be saying as part of that prayer time. And for me, one of the things, the passages that I've really valued doing that with is when Jesus is on the boat and he calms the storm. I imagined being one of the disciples, actually, and imagining Jesus asleep on the bottom of a boat when the storm is raging. And it probably feels a bit like that at the moment. There's so much going on, and it can feel quite stormy, and perhaps some of the anxieties and the fears that are going on. But then, as I was praying with the passage, I almost imagined myself going and lying down and sleeping next to Jesus, and what that would feel like. For me, when I feel anxious or worried, it's usually sleep is one of the first things to go, and I'm awake at night and my thoughts are going. So it's almost an invitation from God to say, it's okay, I am in charge of the storm, be at peace, and come lie down and rest. So for me, that was a particularly good passage to do that imaginative prayer with. So.
That's a great thing to do, and it's something I try to practice as well, and would really encourage it. So again, the book is called The Jesuit's Guide to Almost Everything.
And it has got in there, actually, a bit about imaginative prayer, and it probably explains it better than I have. So
you explain it really well, Rachel.
Thanks, Paul.
Pleasure. So now we're going to listen to a song being sung by Maddie Rees. Many of you recognize Maddie from being up front with the worship team. She's married to Dave, has 2 young children, Caleb and Samuel. And this is Maddie singing in her home, which is a very nice home.
Come and rest here, come and lay your burdens down. Come and rest here, there is refuge for you now. Come and rest here. Come and lay your burdens down. Come and rest here. There is refuge for you now. You'll find his peace and know you're not alone anymore. He is near. You'll find his healing. Your heart isn't shattered anymore. He is near. Breathe in, breathe out. You will find him here. I will rest in you. 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 Breathe in, breathe out. You will find him here. Breathe in, breathe out. You will find him here.
Thank you, Maddie. That was a really beautiful song, and I'm sure a great comfort to all of us. Minty is going to read for us now from Psalm 23, a modern version. So thank you, Minty.
Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in the meadow grass and leads me beside the quiet streams. He gives me new strength. He helps me do what honors him the most. Even when walking through the dark valley of death, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me, guarding, guiding all the way. You provide delicious food for me in the presence of my enemies. You have welcomed me as your guest. Blessings overflow. Your goodness and unfailing kindness shall be with me all of my life. And afterwards, I will live with you forever in your home.
Thank you, Minty. That was lovely, and in this present situation, a really great psalm to focus on. So thank you for that.
What we should have said at the beginning, and I apologise, is the reason we're able to do this today is because since Monday, when Boris Johnson told all of us we've got to stay in our homes, memos went out from the Welsh Government to say that certain things you can do, and one of the things you can do, churches can, is do a live stream without the congregation there. So that's why we're able to do this. And Rachel and I, 2 meters apart.
We've measured it.
We've measured it.
Yeah.
And David, behind all the gubbins, is at least 3 meters away. So that's great, isn't it? But last night we had our first Zoom prayer meeting. And it was good, wasn't it, Rachel?
It was
very good. It was crazy and nutty, but we prayed.
Yeah.
And there was about, taking households into account, who were there, 48 people, which is fantastic. And we are going to do that again. And we'll keep you in touch by email about when the next one is. But there may well be something weekly coming up, and I can email you about that tomorrow when we get a bit more information.
Technically, that's Thursday, and they'll be watching this on Sunday. But,
Correct, you're quite right. That's right, it is, isn't it? By the power of magic and being able to teleport, we're going back in time.
Yes.
So I'm sure you're all confused, but we'll press on. Rachel,
Yes.
you were going to talk about
yes,
Holly.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the buddies that have volunteered and are making connection with people across the church, and also feeding back how people are. So really appreciate that, and it's really nice to know how people are connecting in new and different ways, like Zoom.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So the Holly system's working well.
The Holly system is working
The
very
Holly
well.
system's working. Buddy Holly.
We'll humour you.
We will humour you with that. Yeah, it's about the only way to deal with me, really, isn't it?
Yes.
S-
Also, sorry, just to say thank you to people who have sent in prayer requests that will be forwarded to the prayer chain every Monday. So keep those coming, and we will be praying for those things.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, so what we're hoping to do over the next few weeks is to have a feature from different people working in the healthcare or caring professions, so we can pray specifically for them. And today, Alice Bradford is going to talk to us about her work in a care home. Alice came to us as an intern a few years ago, and she's now part of our community in Pentwyn. So Alice is going to share some of her work. Thank you, Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice. I work in a care home in Cardiff, and we are on lockdown because of the coronavirus. This means that only staff are allowed in and out of the building, and the residents have been cut off from their families. We are trying to keep life within the care home as normal as possible, encouraging them to engage in activities like normal. They do read the newspaper or watch the news, but we're trying to not let these outside news affect them or worry them, and to keep their spirits and morale high. The care home brought 2 iPads so that residents can video call their families, and this was helpful with Mother's Day just gone, and also it's quite fun to see the 90 to 100-year-olds attempting to use new technology. I love working in a care home and engaging with residents of different ages and different backgrounds and learning about their lives. I would love it if you could pray for the safety and protection of the staff and the residents, and that the residents continue to enjoy life and don't feel isolated from the outside world or their families. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Alice. Our healthcare workers and support workers are doing an amazing job, and we do need to keep praying for them and encouraging them, dropping them notes. That'd be a great thing to do if we could. That was quite an arty little shot, really. You could hear the birds in the background tweeting it away, very pretty, and then there was this artistic shot of washing of a towel, which I believe is Laura's towel. And however arty it is, it's still a towel. So thank you for that. But now we've asked Rob Parsons if he'd just share a few thoughts with us. And Rob and I are self-isolated, and so therefore Rob has done this on his phone. And so that should be fun. So this is Rob.
You know, the book of Psalms in the Bible is a book of poetry, and there's all kinds of poetry in it. There's poetry written when people that wrote them were in an incredible place in their lives. They were on a mountaintop. They were full of joy. And there were poems that were written in the deepest valleys. But you know, Rick Warren made an interesting observation. He said that although we think of life as mountaintop experiences, perhaps one day or 1 year, and then the next day or the next month or the next year we're in a deep valley, life is often not like that. It's more like a railway track, and twin tracking. On this track, good things are happening, but at exactly the same time, bad things are happening. And I'm sure you've experienced that in your life, and in this very challenging time in our world, in our nation, in our families, in our individual lives. I'm sure it feels that there's lots of bad things happening at the moment, but no doubt, although not for everybody, some good ones as well, and we can see that difference. But I want to read you a verse from a psalm that was written at a very difficult time of the poet's life. It's from Psalm 57. Let me read you just the first verse or two. Have mercy on me, O God. Have mercy on me. For in you my soul takes refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster is past. This is an image of a mother hen that gathers her chicks around her for safety. I heard an incredible story some years ago. It was of a farmyard fire. And when the fire brigade eventually went into the farmyard, everything was burned and they found the burnt carcass of a mother hen. But the next day, as the farmer lifted the carcass, underneath were the chicks, still alive. She had protected them. It was the image that Jesus used. He said this, how often would I have gathered you as a hen gathers her chicks, but you would not come. But who is it that wrote this poem? Who is it that cried out in such a way, hide me in the shadow of your wings until the disaster is past? It was David, the greatest king of Israel. If you ask anybody in Israel, who is your greatest king? It will be David, the warrior king. And of course it was David that took on the giant Goliath. You know, when I was a little boy, my mum and dad didn't go to church, but they sent me to a little chapel on the corner of my street. And in that chapel was Miss Williams, the Sunday school teacher. She was very short and she was an incredible person. She never did get married. She never did have children of her own. But I think she had hundreds of children. And we loved Miss Williams. Oh, we loved her for her special teas. We loved her for the little sticker she gave us when we came to Sunday school class. But we loved her most of all for her stories. What a raconteur Miss Williams was. She told us the stories of the boy who brought his lunch to Jesus, of the man who could walk on water. But our favourite was Goliath. Because we all had a bully in school we'd like to see decapitated. And Miss Williams told us the story of this little boy that goes out against the giant with just a few stones and a sling. And he says to the giant, you come against me with swords and staves, but I come against you in the name. And Miss Williams looked at us, we were only about 8 or 9 years old, and she said, boys and girls, you will all have to face giants in life. Sometimes they will be people, sometimes they will be circumstances. It might be a redundancy, it might be sickness, it might be tragedy in your family, but I want you to learn to come against them in the name. She meant, of course, the name of God. This was David, the fighter. But David couldn't fight now. The world was against him. His enemies were gathering around him. He was holed up in a cave somewhere. Does that sound familiar? And from that place of seeming isolation, he cries out to God. I say seeming isolation because, of course, David knew that ultimately he was not alone. We hear a lot today about total isolation. But because of our Father God, there is no such thing as total isolation. Jesus put it like this. I will never leave you nor forsake you. He said, I will not leave you orphans. Now, although life can be difficult, and I'm not minimizing the pain, it's as if he's saying there will always be somebody with you. Now, of course, sometimes that doesn't seem enough. I love the story of the little boy who was sent up to bed and he was scared of the dark. And he shouted down to his mother, Mummy, come on up, I'm scared. And she said, darling, don't worry, God is with you. And he shouted down again and he said, Dad, you come up. And his father shouted up, don't worry, son, God is with you. And this kid yelled down, either of you, get up here fast. I need somebody with skin on. And we all need somebody with skin on as well. We need people around us. And you know, that's one of the good things we're seeing today. I think largely people are looking out for each other. Of course, there's some selfishness, but largely people are learning to look out for each other. We need somebody with skin on. We need friends. We need people there for us. You know, it's understandable that we feel a little afraid. It's understandable that we're full of trepidation. There's an incredible line in Joshua chapter 3, I think it's verse 4, and Joshua is leading the children of Israel into a new land, and then he says this, we've not come this way before. We've not come this way before. And I'm sure you feel like that in your life, but it's physically true. None of us have ever been this way before. This is new for us. It is understandable that there's a little fear and trepidation. But you know, in another psalm, the poet said this. He was essentially saying, there is nothing you can go through. There is no place you can reach, even if you've not been there before, that God is not with you. And this is how he put it. Even if I make my bed in hell, in Hades, in Sheol, they're different translations, he's trying to search for the place, the last place you'd expect to find God. Even if I make my bed there, even there, your right hand will hold me. Underneath are the everlasting arms. When I was a little boy, we used to go to Saturday morning cinema in the Gaiety in City Road in Cardiff. The posh kids paid sixpence for their plush seats and the rough kids paid threepence. I won't tell you how much I paid, except that both I and Wacker Harris got in for sixpence. And our favourite movie on a Saturday morning was Flash Gordon. And it always ended in the same way. Flash would be falling over a cliff. People would be throwing arrows at him and firing bullets at him. And underneath him was a raging river with rapids and man-eating crocodiles. And Flash was hurtling towards this river. And just towards the end, the film would freeze. And across the screen, it would come, will Flash live? We used to discuss it as kids going home. How is it possible? You know, somebody suggested, well, perhaps as he falls, the leading alligator will have a double coronary and Flash will use its dead body as a raft to get to the shore. But he was pretty well always the same. Flash would fall through trees and bushes, but finally, by his stirrups, he'd be held hanging inches above the jaws of the leading alligator. And sometimes life's like that. We fall through lots of things. Hands that perhaps we thought would catch us. Friends or family or hands that were meant to applaud us and make us feel good. Hands that were meant to touch us. Hands that were meant to embrace us. Hands that perhaps were meant to be there for us. And sometimes it seems as if we fall into our own private hell and discover we have fallen into the very hand of God. These are strange times. But you know, it struck me the other day that we are learning things at these times. My wife Diana in total isolation at the moment. Diane was diagnosed with breast cancer just before Christmas, had an op in January and just finished the radiotherapy, so her immune system is very low right now and therefore we have to be very careful, as do others. But as I sat at home in that moment of isolation the other day, it struck me that we don't have any control. You know, I have lived my life and perhaps you live yours as though we have a measure of control, but we never ever did. Our next breath was dependent on God. But I am learning lessons in these times that are precious. I'm not saying they're easy. I'm not saying I would rather not go through these times. I would. But nevertheless, we are learning lessons. And one is this. We are not alone. There is no such thing as total isolation. Underneath are the everlasting arms. So will you cry out with me? Father, Heavenly Father, hide me in the shadow of your wings until this disaster is past. Look after yourself. Look after each other. May God bless you.
Thank you so much, Rob. As ever, that was inspiring and encouraging. We thank you for sharing those thoughts with us. So, Paul, the end of another service.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And folks, listen, we're just about to do our blessing at the end, but these are difficult times. Pray that you look after yourselves. Please pray for one another, and do remember others. And if you're going shopping and you've got a neighbour who is self-isolating or is older and they want some shopping, do it for them. It's a good thing to do. So Rachel, shall we say the blessing together?
Yeah. May the road rise up to meet you.
May the wind always be at your back.
May the sun shine warm on your face.
And until we meet again,
may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
It was empty.
What?
People.
People or food?
People.
People.
There was 15 of us in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And was there food?
And there was food.
I can't work in these conditions. I'm not doing this anymore.
Rachel very kindly bought me a book for my birthday called The Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything. It is a terrible
Sorry,
cover.
guys.
You forgot to record.
Yeah. I did that. Yes.
On each one of us, in love, he gazes on us.